Right up here in front of us, there's very clear, for the first time this clear, as the weather changes and the fall air is crisper and clearer. You can see Mount Hermon emerging right there. That's all Mount Hermon. That'll be the first to get snow-capped if snow comes. Right there in the center is Mount of Beatitudes. And the sun is about to come. It's not there yet. I decided to start a little earlier. The sunrise is getting later, and I know for sure it's going to be visible. Some days when it's cloudy, it's hard to make that decision because you don't know how long it will take to come out. And here we have the waning full moon setting. I posted a little reel about that as it rose last night over the Sea of Galilee. So maybe you've noticed already a little change in this production this morning. I forgot the Osmo, so I'm just walking with the phone directly in my hand without the possibility of the balancing effect of the Osmo. You can see the tag in her ear there. So you'd say, what good is that type of forage? Well, it's actually the same as hay. It's just dried grass. Maybe the difference is that in the hay, when it's cut, it has maybe more nutrients because obviously with the drying up of the plants and the heat, a lot goes back into the roots. Maybe. I won't pontificate on that. But some plants do collect a lot back into their roots for the next year. But maybe that's not true of the grasses, I'm not sure. Or maybe it's an old wives' tale. Great. So today I'm thanking the Lord for 45 years since my first profession. Yesterday some people misunderstood exactly what I was saying. That's okay, no problem. And there we have our sunrise. So 47 years ago, in 1974, I had finished high school and joined the seminary. And then, instead of going to university, so I was ready for university. Actually, I had a registration and everything for the university to study physics. And then I had 2 years of novitiate in Dublin, which was an introduction to the consecrated life, living the evangelical counsels of poverty, chastity, and obedience, and community, becoming more and more familiar with community life and the particular spirit and mission of our community, the Legionaries of Christ. And so I was there with, I think there were 6 of us who joined in September 1974. And 4 of us made the profession of vows. So 2 had discerned that that was not their calling. and had gone back through other paths. I remember one was going to university for sure, probably both of them. They were both called Timothy. And Timothy Shenick and Timothy McCaffrey. Just remember their names right now. And then, and one of the ones, Kevin, who had made the first vows with us, also discerned later on, when we were studying in Salamanca the following year. Well, actually, he went on to Rome for philosophy, and he discerned that it was not his calling at some point along there. So there were 3 of us who were eventually ordained priests, and that was 11 years later in Christmas of 1987. For my case, we were actually ordained on 3 different dates. Father Jared was ordained first, and Father Patrick Walsh was ordained after me. So then we made our vows. So this was a commitment to live then not only the spirit of poverty, chastity, and obedience in an intensive way, preparing for the vows, but to be committed. And canon law requires that commitment to be limited to 3 years, after which it can be renewed for another 3 years, or one could make final vows. And in my case, in that community discernment, I did 2 renewals. So then I was a total of 11 years in the congregation when I made my final vows. And that was then in 74, that was 85. In 1985. So then I was ordained a priest in 1987. So there were all different steps. So some people congratulated me yesterday for the anniversary of priestly ordination, and that's not the case. The fact is, I joined the seminary in 1974. I made my first vows in 1976 on the 26th of September, 45 years ago today. And then subsequently my final vows 9 years later. And then my ordination 2 years after that as a priest, which will be 34 years this Christmas Eve, God willing. So I'm thankful to the Lord for that, thankful for all the prayers, and thankful for all the patience with me, and delighted also to be able to share this with all of you here. Nobody would ever have imagined that years ago. There were no such thing as cell phones back in 1974, and much less social media, and much less live chats, because this is really live television from Mount Arbel. Television seeing at a distance, so you're able to see this all around the world. So who knows what the Lord still has in store for all of us. That's the mystery of providence. We're climbing the mountain of life, of religious experience, of spiritual life, of community. And of course we want to turn to the readings today, which as usual are loaded with extraordinary pointers for our lives, some very tough words today, and some bountiful gifts, amazing gifts, really amazing. And we see the outpouring of the Spirit on 72 people. There were only 70 in the camp, and Joshua complains that 2 others who weren't there also received the Spirit, and he was a bit nervous about this. Sometimes leadership wants to control stuff. He was Moses' successor, and Moses helped him to understand that God had a bigger heart, and that he has his plans with us and he pours out his charisms as he wishes. In the same way, Jesus in the gospel helps John, fiery John, to understand that it's okay when other people also, who don't belong to their type community, also do a lot of good. And even use Jesus' strength and his power to do good, even though they don't belong to the band. And this is a sobering lesson for all of us religious people who are very passionate about our communities and our strengths. And it's something we might read 100 times, but it might take us that special gift of grace to accept it and to realize it and to leave God's space to work the way he wants to work. A learning process many of us go through, a lot of us, maybe all of us, have to go through. Part of life, part of growing up, maturing. And then there are very tough words in the second reading, and also in the gospel, very tough words as well, about, and here's not about doing good, but it's about failing to do good. Sometimes we complain about people not doing good because they don't belong to us and we don't own it. And other times the problem is even more grievous, that we do bad and it hurts. And in James's letter there's a great critique of those entrusted with wonderful material blessings, and sometimes the blessings are accumulated at the cost of others, and they need to be properly respected. And the words are very harsh. There's always a huge link between worship of God and love of neighbour. And sometimes it's easy for us to go off in a little private devotional corner and worship God, but at the same time harbour very negative attitudes toward others. And there's a whole path of learning for all of humanity, for every child, for every adult, for every young person, for every old person, to look out for the other who's suffering more. I'd ask you special prayers for a family, and there's been a murder in the family. It's been a tough case these last 8 or 10 days. And there are people who were here at Magdalene. And it's very sad, very cruel. We need to support each other. There's another family that asks for special prayers. A person who's every day on the live stream with us, and a very close young mom to that lady is in 4th stage cancer, and she has a little baby. So we need a lot of prayers, a lot of solidarity. The mystery of suffering escapes our understanding and our explanations. It's far away, it's outside. It's further away sometimes than the moon. What we do know is that our Lord came to accompany us and walk with us in our sufferings and take our sufferings upon himself, so we're not alone facing all these horrendous trials. And then Jesus' words probably are the toughest really in the scriptures today, along with James's words to the rich, and that is the issue of scandal, giving scandal. And scandal is, in a certain sense, opening the door for others to do evil, or maybe inducing them and enticing them or showing them how. And unfortunately, that's part of broken human nature, and it happens a lot. And maybe we're even used to scandal. And what was scandalizing us 10 years ago, even a few years ago, now is normal. It's normal for one, that because it becomes so widespread in the society, and then it becomes normal also if we ourselves indulge. And the sin of scandal is very, very evil because it cuts both ways. There are two ways to commit scandal. One way is to give scandal, and the other way is to take scandal. That means somebody jumps off the cliff, and I say, well, if he jumps off the cliff, I'm going to jump off the cliff too. And obviously that seems very ridiculous to us. But that's what people do. Oh, this person did this horrible thing, so I can do it too. And they're actually ruining themselves. That's taking scandal. Giving scandal is obviously, especially people with a particular moral and then obviously in religious realm, responsibility. If an elected official cheats and steals, or a company head fills their own pockets from a management position, then that's opening up the door for everybody else, because there's a huge complicity in evil and knowing about evil, unless there's a very firm will against evil. And then it becomes much worse if it's siblings leading their siblings into very bad behaviors. Imagine somebody leading a child into drugs or into a human trafficking ring. And then probably the most repugnant, together with the corruption of parents in that way. If parents do this to their children, lead them into all kinds of depravities and evils, and they're supposed to be leading their children to good. So that's a real scandal for the children, because it becomes a stone of tripping, a tripping stone. They fall on their face. And that becomes very, 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 very hard. And these poor children, what defense do they have? We all need help to stay away from evil. We don't need any encouragement to go there. And the worst part of it all then is when priests and religious and consecrated people give scandal. It becomes really, really horrible. And that's why the word is used so much, all the scandals, recent scandals that have come to be known. And Jesus says, he's probably teaching here at the Sea of Galilee, and he says it's better if you got a millstone. And a millstone, I should go back here to one of these rocks. And the typical millstone here that you see many times around the different sites in the Holy Land is at least as heavy as this big rock here, okay? And there's a hole in the center of it usually for spinning around or whatever. And it's as heavy as that. I'm not sure the kilogram or the pound weight, probably it's ton weight, or more. I don't know the exact weight. And tie that around your neck and be thrown into the ocean. So we're here right there beside the water, so there's not far to go. And that's Jesus' very stern warning about scandal. And we've become very used to scandal, and we laugh at scandal, and we have to stop that, obviously. It's just too grievous. So that's a very big, hard message for today, and I think it reaches into all of us, and especially the media consumption of scandal. It becomes a money maker, a money winner, and we just can't be part of that. People, we got to ask the Lord for the grace to cut with all scandal and to act against scandal, to counteract scandal. The best way to counteract scandal is virtue. Is doing good and leading others to good. And we need a lot of that today. So people, here we are in this beautiful, beautiful morning with all these strong, inspiring words from Scripture. I'm so happy that you came along here this morning for this walk. Counting on your prayers. Delighted that you're part of this stroll and chat, sunrise stroll and chat at the Sea of Galilee. God bless you. See you later.